Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you for your patience while we work through those technical difficulties. Roll call, all directors are present. Approval of the agenda. Mr. Bartz, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the agenda tonight.
All right. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor of the motion to approve the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved. Moving on to public comment. Ms. Sevi, are there any members of the public here for public comment?
Okay, anybody in person, please come up and use the microphone.
I just wanted to say I like the date change of the month. The only issue is a little bit about the time being a bit early for people missing. I would have liked the compromise of staying on Zoom, being the compromise between the two so that people could have at least had an option. Just my 2 cents on it. That's it.
Thank
Thanks.
you. All right, anyone else have a public comment that is in person? Mr. Barnes?
Thank you very much, Board. I was just wanting to make a comment thanking the Board and the staff. I've made several public comments over the past few months about several issues, and I noticed from my comments that I made last week on the agenda, mentioned that staff is working to deal with the Zoom question that I had brought up, and I feel like staff and the Board listen when we come and make our comments, and I appreciate that, and I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. So we will move to public comment on the Zoom.
Okay, Cheryl Roden, do you have a public comment?
I'm here for 6C, thanks.
Okay. Meredith, do you have a public comment?
Not for this time, thank you.
Okay, and everybody else is staff or legal counsel?
All right, great. Thank you very much. And then we will move on to community reports. I think I see Sam Shoup. How are you doing this evening?
Hey everyone, I'm doing well. Hope the same for all of you. Thanks so much for having me here again. I don't have a big update for everybody today. One major thing that our office has been monitoring, something that's been pretty important for the supervisor, and I'm sure for many of you, has been the potential designation of the Western Joshua Tree as endangered with the Fish and Game Committee of the state. We met again today. I believe they will be meeting again tomorrow as well, but they once again kind of bunted that decision down the road a little bit. They did not come to a compromise on either way when it came to the Joshua Tree situation, so we're going to have to wait for that next meeting. Part of their rationale, I believe, for not making a decision today is they're expecting some legislation to be proposed at the state level. The governor is working on a piece that will then provide some sort of loophole or workaround for the listing. I have not seen any text on that. I don't know what that workaround will be, whether it will allow for any sort of development in our area or not. So that's something we're going to keep an eye out for. I'm sure many of you will as well. I don't know if the Assembly member will be able to provide any information on that once it comes in, once it gets introduced or goes through the budget process. But that's the main thing we're kind of keeping an eye on right now. It's been a big deal. We've got many calls from constituents in the Green Hills area who've had issues with permitting and the like over the last couple of years. So that's something we're keeping an eye on. But that's the main thing I want to bring your guys' attention today. I appreciate the 5 o'clock change as well, so I'll echo some of those comments. But beyond that, I always want to remind everyone, if anyone has any issues with county departments, anything they want to bring to the supervisor's attention, please feel free to pass along my information, reach out to our office, and we'll be happy to help however we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Sam? No? All right, thanks. Have a great night.
Thanks so much.
All right, and then I don't see any other community reports, so we will move on to item 3, consent items. Does anyone have any items they would like to pull? No?
I will move the item.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor of the motion to approve the consent items, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, the motion passes. Okay. No matters removed, and we have no presentations and appointments, so we will move on to 6A, discussion and possible adoption of Resolution 2023-05, authorizing remote teleconference meetings for the period of February 9th, 23 to March 23. Mr. Bartz.
Thank you, Madam President. Ms. Sevi is going to take this item.
All right, thank you. So as you're aware, we've been operating our meetings with a remote participation option under AB 361 for quite some time now. And that is set to expire at the end of this month. Board members will no longer be able to participate remotely without following the procedures set forth in either the Brown Act or AB 2449, the Steve Kennedy Law. However, the public, staff, and consultants can still attend remotely without the requirements of AB 361. And staff is in the process of developing that option and will present it to the board at the next board meeting. So at this time, staff is requesting for the board to adopt resolution number 2023-05, authorizing remote teleconference meetings for the period of February 9th, 2023 to March 1, 2023, should the board desire to continue holding remote teleconference meetings under AB 361. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? No? All right. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
And a second? No, are you thinking?
This is for one meeting, so, right?
It covers our next meeting and our
covers the next
committee
one.
meetings as well.
We can attend committee meetings by Zoom?
Yeah, so you'll be able to attend any
Okay, so-
meetings in
okay.
February remotely.
So it's for the next three weeks?
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, we're gonna be able to do it for the next 3 weeks.
Can we, probably need you to turn on your microphones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see, I don't see a reason to continue it for the next 3 weeks. So I won't second it, I'll just let it die.
Do you have any comment for that, Ms. Debbie? Sorry.
No, it's just, you know, it is an option if any of the board members for the rest of this month would want
some
to or
reason.
need to attend remotely via this method.
Okay. I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Just abstain.
Okay, so the motion passes. Thank you. All right, moving on to 6B, discussion and possible adoption of Resolution 2023-06, modifying Section 2300, Parks and Recreation Rates and Fees of Policy Number 2000, Comprehensive Schedule of Rates, Fees, and Charges for District Services. Mr. Bartz.
Thank you. Ms. Sevi is also going to present this item.
Okay, so we're continuing on with our review of all of our district rates and fees that are not related to utility billing or trash disposal. And for Section 2300 of Policy Number 2000, the following changes are recommended to better reflect the cost of providing certain services. These fees have not been modified since May 5th, 2010, And staff is also recommending removing non-resident fees for facility rentals since we don't utilize those, they're never utilized. Additionally, we recommend removing deposit requirements since a deposit, and I have an update to the staff report. I thought it was never, but a long time ago, we did have to charge against a deposit. That was one time in our entire history. But we do have the option if there is damage to the buildings, we can bill them, do property liens if they are a constituent, or we can charge against their insurance policy. And so we just recommend removal of the deposit so we don't have additional staff time processing, taking those in and then doing refunds. And we hope it will encourage additional rentals. And so we have this schedule with the strikeouts of what we're recommending removing, as well as the proposed change. And then we compared similar facility rates in the high desert, and there's a table for that. And I did provide a handout. It shows our application and agreement for use of district facilities. This is the draft, should we change it. And I provided that because it shows the difference between a Category 1 and Category 2. So Category 1 are meetings and classes, and Category 2 are parties, receptions, dinners. They require a little bit more staff time to clean up. I did post this on the website for those of you online. And so staff is recommending that you adopt resolution number 2023-06, modifying section 2300 Parks and Recreation rates and fees of policy number 2000, which is our comprehensive schedule of rates, fees, and charges for district services.
All right, thank you very much. Any comments or questions?
I had one question. The insurance policy is $1 million for all the rentals?
Yes.
Okay.
And we worked with our carrier to provide an easy option for renters to get that policy should their existing renters or homeowners insurance policy not have that. It used to be free. If you had a homeowners or renters insurance policy, you could call up and they would give you an event policy, usually free or inexpensive, but we've noticed that's going away, so SCRMA has provided an option, which is pretty easy to use.
So there is really no need for the deposit, as you mentioned?
No, because if there's damage, we would charge against that policy. And so with the exception of one time in our almost 15 years, we never use it. And so we have to take in that deposit, which is a process, and then we have to issue a refund for the deposit, which is additional staff time. So we just thought it would make it easier, cost savings to remove that.
Makes sense, thank you.
My questions were answered when you were answering. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
All right, questions over here?
How do you get people to clean it if you don't have a deposit?
They clean it, and we tell them they have to clean it. So if you look through the application, there's some initial sections, and it talks about cleaning. So cleanup of the facility is the applicant's responsibility. The applicant shall make sure all decorations, food, gifts, and rental equipment are removed from the facility at the end of the event, and the facility and all outside areas, including restrooms, kitchens, shall be left in the same condition as they were prior to the event. Failure to do so may result in a cleaning charge of $40 per hour. And we don't really have issues other than that one time. And on the occasion,
Because there's a deposit.
maybe.
Well, I've had some house rentals. If you don't put a cleaning deposit, you're not going to get it cleaned, so.
And we would bill them. Now, if this doesn't work out, obviously, we would be coming back to the board to ask to reinstate the deposit. We have very good renters, typically.
And what's the reason for increasing it? To
Well,
cover district costs? Is that-
Yeah, as you're aware, CPI went up, and we haven't changed these fees since 2010. They come nowhere near covering
Aren't we
the
trying
cost
to
of
promote the
rental.
use of these buildings?
We are.
Well, this is a non-promotional
It
move.
still is, it's still less than the cost of the productive hourly rate to keep these centers rented. So, a park staff member generally comes and lets a one-time renter in, and then comes at the conclusion of the rental to make sure everything is locked up. And so, that's time, especially if it's after hours, because we rent out till about 11 o'clock. And, they have to clean up And if it's the kitchen, they have to clean up the kitchen. They have to bring it back to sanitary conditions, so it's a lot of work.
Do they ever make mention that they have to do some cleaning or tell whoever's rented it that it's not
Yeah,
clean?
so that's the benefit of having the park staff member show up, is they look at the rental while the people are still there and, you know, keep their eyes on it. And then, of course, our regular renters, it's more hands-off. And so we did add in there a new category, which would be the temporary use agreement for these facilities, because we have some churches that rent regularly, and they don't require us to necessarily be here to open or close. And they know the drill with putting everything away and cleaning up and mopping and all of that. And so we would bring a temporary use agreement to the board for our 2 regular renters.
Did that answer your questions? Good? Okay. So if there's no further questions, do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay, thank you. The motion passes. All right, moving on to 6C, discussion and possible action regarding Resolution 2023-07, establishing policies for board conduct amongst directors and with staff. Mr. Barnes.
Thank you, Madam President. Periodically, the district's policy concerning relations among board members and staff is reviewed to determine if changes are necessary. The last modification occurred on September 4th, 2019, when the policy was amended to address the use of social media by directors. The policy was last reviewed on January 5th, 2022, and no material changes were made. Staff's recommendation is that the board review Resolution 2022-01, establishing policies for board conduct amongst directors with staff.
All right, thank you very much. All right. Any comments or questions or changes that you see? No? Over here? Comments, questions, changes? No? Ms. Roden, you said you had a comment on item 6C?
Oh, I do. Item 1.3, which is page 2 on that item, page 41 in your packet, where you're discussing the minutes of the meetings. There's 2 sentences there that read, "The minutes of the board shall report the ayes and noes," and it goes on. At the end of that sentence where it ends, resolutions or motions, if you were to insert comma and amendments thereto, it would address the need to memorialize in writing amendments to motions in your minutes, rather than just simply saying with amendments in the minutes themselves. So I hope you'll consider that. In item 1.6, which suggests that you should refrain from social media, that's page 4 in your in this item. I can think of 1,000 reasons why you should refrain from social media, but AB 992 passed a few years ago, and that did away with the restrictions on you to do so if you wish to do so. And you should be familiar with those restrictions in case you make that decision. And to encourage, I think it goes to the whole issue for me of the board as the emissaries of the CSD, and the eyes and ears in the community for staff, and to a great extent, to encourage exchanges and free open exchanges between board members and the community, so that you can bring those feelings and thoughts back to the board for discussion. And then one more quick item that is just for future consideration, I think, and it's on item 1.4, page 241, that has to do with the selection of committee members for the board. And I recall the old board meetings where you would all just discuss, I'd like to be on this committee, I'd like to be on that committee. And this rule, as I read it, states that the president will do that, which is fine. But you might want to consult with Mr. Kennedy before you do, because if you were to talk to all of the board members, outside of an open session, that might be a conflict with the serial meeting rule. So it's just something I bring to your attention for clarification in the future when you need to do so. And I sincerely hope you will consider my suggestion that you add amendments to the motion should be put into the minutes. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. All right. So with that, are we motioning on this one? Wait, there's no vote.
This is just for a review and
Okay.
discussion, so if there's any modifications the board would like, we could bring it back for review and possible adoption.
Okay, so with the current comments and suggestions, does anyone see any changes that need to be made at this time?
I don't see anything.
I had a little trouble following
Oh, yeah.
some of those, so I don't know some of what she was talking about. But I didn't have any other.
Okay, over here?
Nope.
No? All right. No, no changes. Thank you. All right, so we will be moving on to 6D, review and discussion regarding ordinance 2020-01, setting compensation for the district's board of directors. Mr. Martz.
Thank you. Periodically, the ordinance concerning compensation for the district's board of directors is reviewed and/or amended. The last time the ordinance was amended was on February 19th, 2020. At that time, the compensation amount was adjusted from $110 to $120 per compensable meeting. Should the board desire to change the compensation amount, the maximum amount per statute it could increase would be to $138.92. And I would round that off to make it easy for addition if they do make a change, with the maximum of 10 meetings per month. Any changes made to this ordinance must follow ordinance adoption procedures. Now, below is the table of the different board compensation amounts for other nearby agencies. And you have the CSD current is $120 a meeting. The Mojave Water Agency is $188.55 per meeting. And Helendale CSD is $150 per meeting with a maximum of 10 meetings per month. And if the board wants to make changes or has questions about that, Mr. Kennedy would probably step in and give some advice. One of them was on the resetting of the timing. So if you increased it, and that's what happened in the past, they increased it by, I believe, $10, and then it reset the clock on that, because it's so much per year, a percentage per year that it can increase. So that would reset the clock on that if there were changes made.
Okay.
We need Steve to go over that one.
If the board has questions, you could absolutely ask him to go over that. I believe Steve is prepared. Yeah, he's on the phone.
I don't know
He's
if he heard
thinking
us.
about it.
He's thinking about it. Mr. Kennedy, can you hear us?
Let's give him a second.
Okay, yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
So, Steve, the question was, I think the board was inquiring about the resetting of the clock. If the board were to make a change in the amount of the compensation, how that would affect future changes or the amounts that could be changed in a year or 2 years down the road. Kind of going back to what we discussed years ago.
Yeah, correct, that's correct, Mr. Bart. The rule is, under the water code, is that the maximum that can be increased on an annual basis is 5% per annum. So, from the date of the last adjustment. So, last adjustment was in February of 2020. It would be 5% for 3 years. So it would be 138. And what that does is that would be the maximum that the board can adopt. Oftentimes, what the board has done, actually as a cost-saving measure, is will adopt a number less than that, but with an increase, and then that resets the clock from the date of that adjustment. So if you were to increase it, say 10 or $15 or something, you're actually saving the district money because it prevents future boards from catching up from to what the number could have been at a previous date. And so it resets the clock at that 5% per annum. There's certainly a cost-saving value to the public by doing a smaller increase than what would otherwise be allowed, but then setting the clock for any future increases. The process that the board would have to engage in, if the board was inclined, the board would not be able to increase it tonight. But what we would have to do is we would have to schedule a public hearing and notice that up in the newspaper once a week for 2 weeks prior to public hearing. The board would consider adoption of that increase as an ordinance, not a resolution or a motion, but as an ordinance. And then if that ordinance is adopted following the public hearing, then that ordinance could not take effect for at least 60 days after adoption.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, so suggestions, questions, comments?
I don't have any comments or questions,
Mhm.
but, I mean, he explained that.
Yeah,
I think we should look into it or do whatever he needs us to do.
okay. So last time we did it, we raised it by $10.
We could
So-
just leave it, that would save.
Or we could, now if we leave it, you're just spunky today. Just gonna say that. Okay, so if we, thank you, Mr. Kennedy. If we leave it, what he's saying is that the next time we bring this back, then that amount from 138 is gonna jump even higher that they can approve it to. So I just remembered,
They is us,
well, not all of us are gonna be they at that point, right? So.
possibly, but most of us, I think.
Yeah, so, over here, comments, throw you guys under the bus.
She goes to us
So
first.
just so the board is aware, we would need direct, if the board was inclined to consider an increase, then we would need direction on how to notice that up for the hearing. So what we're looking at right now is if the board is one, if you're inclined to increase it, then to provide us with a number so that we could notice that up as part of the public hearing, so that the public is aware as to what number you would be considering.
Okay,
And I would say that the maximum that you can consider is the 138 number.
okay. Just $10. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah,
Just raising it by $10?
Yeah, even less than that for me, just a minimal increase so we could lock it in like the attorney explained, because we don't know what could happen in 2 or 4 years or however the terms work. And so what that does is it locks in the rate from being changed. So I'm good with a minimal increase,
Okay,
very minimal.
And I'm good with leaving it where it is, or a minimal increase, I can go either.
This is reviewed every year, correct?
Usually, yeah.
So,
Rebecca?
I mean, we'll all still be here next year, is what Mark is saying. So if you're comfortable leaving it at 120, and that feels good for you, and Chuck's okay with it too, and we leave it at 120, and then we just bring it back again in another year. Okay? Is that consensus? All right, fantastic. Mr. Barnes?
I have no issue with the board raising the amount of money that they bring in. Looking at the comparative numbers from, like, say, Hallandale CSD, my comment is, it does seem to me sometimes that some of the meetings feel rushed, and so I would like the board to feel like they're properly compensated for meetings, especially committee meetings, and are willing to take the time to really see them through completely and like delve through all the information and whatever information the public might need. So if more compensation would help with that, then I would say raise it. Thank you.
I trust you.
Thank you.
We don't rush because of that. Guarantee ya.
True statement. All right. Okay, thank you. All right, so we will move on to 6E, update on the proposed Civic Center and Phelan Park expansion projects. Mr. Bartz.
Yes, George is going to give the update.
Thank you, Dawn. Mr. Bartz. This afternoon, I received the draft procurement strategy from our consultants. We'll be meeting with them on Monday to kind of discuss the approach to the RFQ. With that being said, they will provide us with a more accurate schedule of this project from the procurement, the RFQ, the RFP. So we could have that by next week. After our meeting, we'll have that timeline. Kind of working on the district board meetings to bring back an item for approval and recommendation. That's going to be factored into the schedule. So it's better to kind of wait. We have something that's tentatively close, but better to have something more accurate next week. Get back to the project itself. I've included in the engineering manager's report in item 8 a breakdown of all the submittals and the status. Nothing has changed from that except the WQMP was resubmitted with the correction, and that was basically the retention basin for the full project. That's the Civic Center and the park. So with that being said, the retention basin is also being modified in the grading plans for the Civic Center project. That could be completed by the end of the week, no later than early next week for submittal. We are also working on finalizing the grading limit and access easement from Mr. Van Dam. And with that, I have no other items to report. If you have any questions, please.
Any questions? No? Mark, any questions? No? Good.
No, I do have Sophie with Steno's Design online. If she would like to add anything to the conversation, she handles more of the communications between county and Steno and for the CSD. I'm not sure if she's on the line. She was on it earlier, but if she has anything to add, please jump in.
No, I think you gave a good review. I'm just here to, in case any of the board members have any questions. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. No. And I kind of struck this off of what I was going to kind of discuss, but Sam mentioned the meeting with the Joshua Tree. One thing that we got from that was that they're looking at a conservation plan, and they're working with the Native American Indian tribes to kind of come up with that. So they're looking at possibly by August. It's not impacting our project, so it's kind of moving that further into the next year on when they adopt it. So it's right now that's where they're at. Fortunately, there was no discussion on it. They just moved it into a future meeting. So I just wanted to add that to Sam. Oh, he's off the line.
So the Joshua Tree decisions are pushed off at least past August, is that what you're saying?
Yes, they're working with the tribes for a conservation plan. So they put a deadline on them to have it to them by August. So for their review and then taking it to Sacramento for adoption.
That is in addition to other reviews that they've had, not just them making just the tribes making the decisions?
Just the tribe making.
They're the ones just making the decisions?
That's correct. And it's the board that's going to be making the final decision on that.
They've got to put their 2 cents in.
Yeah, I know that, but I assume other people have made comments on it too. Other entities, building, real estate.
They have, and
Development.
that was early on in those discussions regarding the Joshua Tree. The tribes felt they were left out in that discussion, and they weren't considered, so they brought back another meeting to discuss it strictly with the natives.
Okay, I get it.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 7, committee reports. We will start with engineering.
If I may, just real quickly.
Of course.
These are drafts, and I have noticed a few little errors, which will be attended to before they're approved by their committees.
Okay, thank you. All right, so engineering.
Hasn't met and will meet next Wednesday, correct?
All right, thank you. Finance committee.
Finance Committee met and we went over disbursements and mostly the budget. And we, Ms. Lawrence went through the budget pretty detailed, in a detailed fashion. Did you have any comments about that?
I did not. Staff did an excellent job going over the budget. Great information for a newcomer.
Thank you. Legislative. You guys haven't met yet? Okay. Parks and Rec, we met and went over roles and responsibilities, strategic plan, maintenance plan, and budget as well. Next meeting, we'll go over the agenda for the activities for the year, right? Is that what he said?
I believe so.
Think so.
We went over a lot.
Yeah, we went over a lot. And waste and recycling.
Same thing, we went over community duties. Kim went over review quarterly reports to do with 1383. We had that, when we have like a town hall kind of meeting regarding all of that, which was very informative, I hear, Kim, and I was unable to be there, but there was a lot of participants in that meeting, so I think it went well. So we kind of reviewed all that. What else did we go over? Oh, CIP. I think that was it. Anything else that I missed, Kim or Rebecca?
And we did talk about that, the community brought up the option of the compost bins,
Oh,
so we
yes.
were gonna do a
Look into those
process
things, yes.
looking into that, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So then we will go to staff and general managers report. Mr. Bartz.
I have nothing to add tonight.
Okay. So then directors reports. Kathy?
I have nothing, thank you.
All right. Mark?
Nothing additional.
Chuck?
Nothing also.
And Greg? Great, they're going to hear me talk some more. On the president's report, I did attach my little summary of the ASB-CSD that I attended. Chris from CSDA did the little update on the amount of electric vehicles that we were supposed to be having in our fleet by 2024. That's still up for negotiations. And then I would say one of the best presentations, and I know Kim was there and she will agree with me, that we've sat through in a long time, and it talked about the bullet train from Brightline coming, and it sounds amazing and incredible to be able to go from, Vegas to LA. Did you want to add?
Yeah, so the city manager of Rancho Cucamonga, because that'll be the start of the Brightline line from the Inland Empire through Vegas, he went through the timeline, and it looks like they're putting in March for the federal project funding, and they may be the only project putting in for those funds. And then they finished their RFP process for the tunnel that goes from, I don't know if you remember the Tesla tunnel that they were going to build from the Metrolink station in Rancho Cucamonga to Ontario Airport. Probably not going to be built by Tesla or Boring Company, but we'll see. But they did put it out to bid, and they were supposed to get those back at the end of February, so that's moving along. Their goal is to have all of this done by 2027 because the Olympics are coming to Los Angeles. And they are hoping to have some of the boxing, wrestling, and other types of events like that that require those types of arenas in Vegas. And so they want to be able to put the athletes on a train in Los Angeles that would take them all the way to Vegas in an easy way. And it's starting to look like not a pipe dream anymore. And the exciting part was Brightline is looking at having a weekday station in Hesperia to help with commuters.
Yeah.
So it would get the commuters from a Hesperia station down to the Metrolink in Rancho, and they can continue on to Los Angeles.
Right.
Are they not starting it in Apple Valley now?
There will be a stop in Apple Valley.
Yep.
Yes. That'll
That'll
be
be
the
the
only
weekend.
high
That's
desert
the
stop
weekend
for
one.
Vegas.
Yeah. But then the Hesperia one will be for weekday commuters.
It'll be added, yeah. So it'll go from Apple Valley to Hesperia to Rancho during the weekdays. But for the Vegas Express, it doesn't stop in Hesperia. It only stops in the farther reaches of Apple Valley and then goes out. What's crazy is the parking structures they're having to build for this.
Yeah.
They're like 5,000-6,000 car structures. And then it has its own separate terminal from Metrolink. So Metrolink will be next to the Brightline, but it's a whole other kind of situation for Brightline. So it's really cool if you can see the renderings of that, which I could probably
Yeah.
procure for you. It's very interesting.
I did put a link in my notes. I know you can't click on it, but it's an amazing thing to look at. It really was.
Yeah, and with the federal matching funds, so it's a private-public partnership, it looks like this thing could actually happen. The most interesting thing to me was everybody's saying it's going to run down the middle of the freeway. Well, it is, but not necessarily at grade. It's going to be elevated because even if there is space, which there isn't, you know, especially coming through the pass, it creates a lot of suction. So, because it doesn't go quite bullet train speed, and they can't even really call it high-speed rail because it's about 140, 150 miles per hour. And I think it has to be 180 or more to be high speed, but very interesting.
Yeah, really cool. All right, so we will move on to item 10, correspondence and information.
Yeah, so there's quite a few things in there. We have a community coffee coming up at the end of this month with Congressman Obernolte and Sheriff Dykes. And so that's Saturday, February 25th at 11:30 a.m. right here. We have our normal notices, our community garden schedule, and then you'll start seeing a bunch of spring activity flyers in here at our next meeting.
Nice, thank you. All right, so item 11, review of action items. Were there any prior meeting action items?
Yes, and so the budget schedule was updated to reflect our new meeting dates and times. We did cancel our new regular meeting on that would have been on the 25th. And then we did update our meeting calendar, and we did notice the new meeting dates and times. And then, as George said in his report, we should have a Gantt chart or similar at our next board meeting.
Okay. And were there any current meeting action items?
I have not recorded any.
Okay. And then we will go to 12, set agenda for next meeting, budget workshop on the February 15th.
So we have an engineering meeting at 4, and then the budget meeting at 5?
Yes, right after.
Okay. And then shows special board meeting the 22nd and regular board meeting the 22nd.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have anything that they would like to add to the agendas?
No, thank you.
Okay. Did you have a question?
I'm sorry, can you use the microphone?
Hello. Now I'm all clear.
The Civic Center?
The Civic Center also. We missed the last few meetings, but it's going to be right here behind this. And how much of it is going to be for the park? And I was told that there was going to be a building where it would be usable for classes, projects for students. Is this a different building or it's the same building?
The first phase of the project is going to be, first phase of the civic complex is going to be a building. There's going to be approximately 4,000 square feet on the north end of the building that can be used for community classes and different things. That will also have a commercial kitchen in that part of it. Hopefully, soon after construction, that part of it would be done too. So there will be things for the community to do in the new building.
All right, because I had spoken to the high school, Serrano High School, to their professors, teachers about this, and if they could have teachers come over and have after-school classes there, something fun, enjoyable that the kids can relate to and their subjects that they're need tutoring, but they don't need tutoring, they just need some kind of involvement to get involved. And they said that they liked the idea, and I need to speak to the school district, spoke to the school district. They liked the idea, and we're just waiting to see what space is available and the times for janitorial and that for be open.
Yes.
And also our dump service, I have spoken to them. Some of the people there, of their workers, would like to have the recycle, where instead of just picking up the recycle bins and taking them there, that we have the pickers for the metal, the boards over there. The upper management says they do have room for these, and I've been talking to them for 2 years now, have not found anybody. They say I need to come to the water company. Now I see the water company talking about this, that you've been busy on the park, getting that straight with what activities to have for the community that would be best of interest. And so now that is just being held up, I was told, with county. But they have the property. It would be to the west side of where you make your dumps now, where the trucks come in. They have that portable building, this metal building, right behind it. And then there is a gutterway, but they said there's still enough passing routes. I did speak to some upper management over there.
Terrific. I would suggest attending the public meetings we're going to have and bring those items up for discussion at the meetings. The board can't take any action on public comment tonight, but definitely we do hear what you're saying.
Okay, so which meetings?
Any of the meetings we have for solid waste.
Yeah, we have, we're just scheduling it now, a second public information meeting in March. And that will be on March 16th, which is the Thursday? Yeah, at 7 p.m.
And also, it was spoken to have 3 trash can receptacles for picking up. One for trash, one for recycles, and one more for different recycles. Does anyone remember that from prior meetings?
Yes, we're still working on that.
On the
So,
3.
yeah, you should definitely come to the community meeting for that, because they give a lot of good information on that one.
The Feeling Community Meeting?
We'll have it here.
Here.
Mhm.
Okay. Is,
It's it's a solid waste committee meetings.
Okay.
And there'll be a special meeting for the public.
Okay, because it just seems a bunch of circles, that these managers are saying, oh, and then the county, I find them, it's not quite the right section in that department, but it can be cleared that we do our own here. And I'd also spoken to the person who lays out for future of our dump sites throughout San Bernardino County, and he had asked for more land. Well, if we do this, we won't need as much land. See, then they turn around and sell the recycles. Whatever comes out, they will sell it, and it gets remade into something new.
Well, the dump now has bins for cardboard, recyclables, electronics, and metals
heavy
right
plastics.
now. Huh?
And heavy plastics.
Yeah, I mean, they've got all that now.
But they're not doing anything with it. They're sending it out.
Well, I don't know what they do with it, but it's being
Okay.
collected, so.
Yeah,
Correct.
But
But if we do it here, have them compacted down, it would bring in a few more work jobs, but it would also save that time and get it distributed out from here. It would save our San Bernardino County from having their of the land.
they have so much future land. He spoke to me about the 10 years and 25 years progression chart. And this is what I'm trying to help him connect, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
comments tonight. All right, and with no further business before the board, we will be adjourned at 5:57.